Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to be doing a handover video on your AutoTrail Imala. It's a 715 and we are based on the Fiat Ducato chassis. So under the bonnet we've got your washer fluid over on the left hand side, power steering fluid and engine coolant. You've then got your brake fluid and your engine oil and dipstick just down here. Your chassis plate is the AutoTrail one that you can see just here, and your air filter box sits down there to the right. You've also got this little cover just here, reveals a positive terminal for the engine battery. So if you want to jump start the van, you've got a positive terminal under that little cover and a negative terminal nicely located just up here on the top. And that is about it for under the bonnet. There's not a huge amount else for me to show you. Inside the passenger door, we've got the bonnet release handle just here inside the door, and your jack and wheel brace kit factory fitted from under here under the passenger seat. You've got a fire extinguisher just there that you can reach from outside or from inside obviously as well. Tyre pressures are on this little sticker just here, so you can see about those too. Behind this little cover is your diesel filling point. So you will need your ignition key to get that diesel filling point open, and that is just covered up nicely there by the little cover. So if I carry on now onto the near side, so we've got your full size wind out Fiamma F45S awning. The habitation door has got a blind on it, as you can see, and bin as well. The standard AutoTrail umbrella that comes with them as well. So your electric step comes out with this little switch just here, so you pull this in and out like so. Nice and easy, nice firm step, and it's working really well as we speak. Next locker we get to is your gas locker. So I've got the gas turned on at the moment so that I can show you a few bits working on the inside. Bear in mind that you've got a gas dropout hole in here, and it's this brown sort of cover just down here. So if you are, you shouldn't put anything in the gas locker at all other than gas bottles and fittings. But if you are going to put anything else in here, please don't cover this up, because this is your gas dropout valve. And if you get a gas leak from one of the bottles, if you cover this cover up here, the locker will fill up, which is exactly what you don't want it to do. So you need to make sure that you leave this clear so that any gas leaks inside the locker might, if there is any gas locker, any leaks in the gas locker, it will come out down there. Okay, so the rest of the locker itself is pretty straightforward. All you need to know is that you turn it anti-clockwise around to the left to turn the gas bottle on, and clockwise around to the right to turn it off. Okay, you've got 5 years from the date of manufacture on the pigtail hose to replace it. So you've got till 29 to replace this pigtail hose, as you see there, 2024. The rest of it on here, you don't have to worry about it at all. This is all just for our testing purposes, and that is your regulator. So literally just make sure that you turn it on and off from there. Make sure that you turn the gas off before you start driving. That's really important. And that's about it. So this little thing just here is your boiler vent. So if you have got the boiler lit up, you will feel warm air coming out through either side of this top part of the vent. And you have also got a winter cover just here, which slides on from the top and then taps on from the bottom. So make sure that you take the cover off before you start trying to use the boiler. That is also very important. So our freshwater filling point is this one just here. So you've got a key in there that you can unlock and lock the actual cap just there. So the cap is currently locked, which is frustrating. Oh, actually I've got the key on me. I thought I didn't have the key on me. Right, so currently locked up. When I put the key in and twist whichever way it will go and take the key out, I will then be able, if I use my other hand, to take the cap out. Okay, until I did that just then, I couldn't do anything at all. It would just spin around on its own and it wouldn't come out. So if I lock it back up again, you see now it's just spinning and not allowing me to do anything at all. So that is your freshwater filling point. Inside this rear locker, as you can see, is just loads of storage. Your factory fitted carpets are in there, and your fridge vent covers are in here as well. But the most important thing that I need to show you is this little yellow valve down here. So the little yellow valve is your boiler drain off point. And the reason it's so important to know where this is because when you come to winterizing your vehicle, or, you know, getting it ready for winter, basically, you need to make sure that all of the water system is drained, and especially the boiler is drained out of the water. So, long story short, if you want to drain the boiler out of all of its water, you lift the yellow tab upright so it's facing vertical. If you want water to stay inside the boiler so that you can use it, you need to lay this down flat like it is right now. Okay, simple as that. You've got a couple of switches over here, which I will run you through in just a minute. One's for the boiler and one's for the heating, but I will run you through that in a minute when we get inside. And at the back of the van here, we have got your water pump. So again, you haven't got to do anything with that. That is just a shore flow fixed water pump. But if in the future, if you don't come to us for something, that is where that's located if you ever have to replace it. So what I'll do is I'll just walk around the other side now. So on the off side of the van, we have got, if I open up the driver's door. So inside the driver's door, I will go through the cab separately in a minute, actually. So there's not really much else I can show you in here, to be honest. The only other thing that I would point out, this is a little bit advanced, really. You don't really need to know this, but I will just point it out to you. You have got a little unit down here. Again, I don't mean that to sound like a, you know, me sort of like saying, you know, you don't need to know it. Of course you want to know what it is. But it's not really relevant to the motorhome side of things normally. So this little fuse box down here, there is a little diagram telling you what they all do, but basically the main reason you would ever go to this little fuse box here is if your side marker lights stopped working one day. A lot of the time, if you took it to a garage, they would think that it was something to do with the actual lights themselves or a Fiat thing. But because the marker lights are fitted by the manufacturer of the motorhome, so they're fitted by AutoTrail, they actually have to fit a separate kind of power feed and fuse for it. So this little unit down here is essentially for marker lights, towing lights, your D+ signal, so that's when your engine's running, you've got a split charger and all that sort of stuff there. So, you know, mainly if you get any side lights go out, you can have a little look at the box down here and check those as well. So I just thought I'd point out that that's what that's for down there. It's not Fiat related. This is all just kind of back-end motorhome stuff. So next thing we get to is our hookup point. So we do have a hookup option here. So basically having a hookup cable plugged in means that you don't have to worry about your battery voltage. The 240 volt charger will spring to life and start charging up the battery. It also means you'll be able to use any of your 3-pin household sockets that you've got inside the vehicle and so on. So I'll explain a bit more about that when we get inside. Down low here, we've got our wastewater drain off point. So you've got a handle on the left-hand side here to actually open up and drain out. But this is where you would drain out your waste tank. These two vents just here are both to do with the fridge. So if you have got the fridge lit up on gas, you may or may not hear a very faint kind of whirring noise when it's lit up on gas. It's just purely the sound of the burner down here. Totally normal. You might also find that you can feel a little bit of warm air through here. So just about here I can feel it. So the warm air is basically just the exhaust coming up from the burner and coming out through here. So you may or may not even find that you get a little bit of condensation forming up above it as well. So that is perfectly normal. Next locker we get to is our toilet cassette locker. So to remove the toilet cassette, it's really simple. Lift up on the orange handle at the front and pull the cassette towards you. You will then be able to take the cassette all the way out, like so, and then take it to wherever you need to go. So to actually drain it out, we twist this around here, like so, and then use this cap here to drain out. Okay, so that's your draining point. When you're physically draining it out, make sure that you're holding down on this little orange button at the back, which will release a little bit of pressure and allow it to come out a lot more easily. Once you finish draining it out, 1 cap's worth, this cap here, 1 cap's worth of blue fluid goes back inside the cassette. Give it a little swoosh around and then push the cassette all the way back in, making sure that your little handle here goes over the lip. Okay, once that's in there like that, you're good again to use it. And then the last thing on the outside is the freshwater drain off point, which is this blue one here at the back. So quite literally twist the valve on the front to drain the water out, and that is draining out your fresh tank. So I'll jump into the cab so that I can show you a few bits in here, just making sure there's nothing else obvious. Right. Okay, so you have got the full cab blinds to start with, so be nice and gentle with these. They can be a bit fragile, but basically squeeze these 2 bits here together and then you will be able to pull this all the way across. So that's the same on the driver's side and the passenger side window. You've also got the same on the front windscreen. Only difference with the windscreen is that they will meet in the middle with a magnetic strip in order to hold themselves shut. So they meet together. So you can't just do one or the other. You have to do them both. Not that I think there's any reason why you would want to do one or the other, but there you go. Right, so on the actual steering wheel itself, we've got a couple of controls. So we've got volume and mute on the left, and we can answer and decline phone calls and skip through things with the ones on the right. On the left-hand stalk, we have got your lights and indicators, and then the lower left-hand stalk is our cruise control, which is down, up to the top, and our speed limiter, which is down to the bottom. Washers and wipers are on the right-hand side stalk as usual, and your fog lamp is here, and headlight adjustments are here. To the right of that, we have got your electronic wing mirror adjustments from here. So you choose which mirror you want to move and then just move it around like a joystick. Really easy. And then our electric windows as well. In the center part of the dash, we've got your standard double DIN size head unit up here. So this is a standard Fiat thing. As I said, you can connect your phone up to it if you want to go through and do that. Below that, we've got all of your heater controls. The air conditioning is turned on and off with this little switch just here. And obviously the heater controls are pretty self-explanatory. You don't need me to explain all of that. Below that, we've got your hazard lights. You can lock and unlock the cab from this button just here. We've got a downhill assist and a traction control on and off button just here as well. Below that, we've got your auxiliary and your USB point, and a couple of cup holders just down here as well, as you get on the newer cabs. You've got a reversing camera, which comes up on this little screen up here, and your original entertainment system up here as well, which is an AutoTrail thing. Okay, so have a little play with this. To be honest with you, we don't normally mess around with all this sort of stuff too much. Reason being that it is just factory fitted. But you can have a little play with it and see if you can get it all going nicely. I'm sure it all works because it's, you know, factory fitted from AutoTrail, so it should be good. But anyway, yeah. So the front seats do both swivel round. So you've got this little handle just here. When you pull on the handle, you will then be able to pull the seat and go all the way around. You will need to manipulate it a little bit to get it to actually turn all the way around. So when we got to this point here, I do need to pull the seat forward a little bit in order to get it to actually spin all the way around. Okay, but have a little play with that. It's all pretty simple stuff. So you can quite easily get through from the cab into the back end of the van, as you can see. So briefly, I'll just point out to you the layout of the vehicle. So first of all, we've got absolutely stacks of storage space up here above the cab, as you can see. Okay, really a lot of storage. If you don't know this already, you've got these funny little clips underneath the lockers on an AutoTrail. So push the little button in with your thumb or whatever finger you want, so they close automatically, but you do need to if you just yank on this, you'll just snap it. So make sure that you pull the little handle there, and then it will allow you to release it. Okay, Right, so layout. We have got, in the front of the vehicle, we've got 2 side settees, which really quickly and easily pull together in the middle to make a small double or very, very large single. So to be honest, actually not even that small as a double, but yeah. So you've got a nice big 2-berth up here at the front. Behind us, we've got a really, really good sized kitchen on the side and loads of space just here. So you've got a huge wardrobe there. The full-size standalone table sits inside this little locker here. And we've got our heating just here as well. Towards the back, we've got our French bed, called a French bed because it slits off to the side here, meaning that you can get into the bathroom, and the bathroom is quite a lot bigger. Don't ask me what that means as to why they actually call it a French bed, but that is what the French bed thing means. It means it's cut off to the side like that, so you can get through to the bathroom a lot easier. Another huge amount of storage space here. And normally these are actually kind of cut off straight, whereas with this particular model, they've gone at an angle here. So you get almost twice the amount of storage in these lockers, which is really clever. And then the bathroom at the back, we have got, because it's a really good size, we've got the hot and cold sink, toilet, and a separate shower at the back of the van. So that's a really, really nice thing. It's almost quite unusual nowadays to find a proper separate shower. Unless you go for a huge great big thing. So yeah, so that's just a brief overview of the layout. Just thought I'd show you that, just so you can see. And so what I normally do is I'll start with like the control panel and the power supply unit, that sort of thing, and then I'll start running you through the appliances and how they all work. So the first thing I'll show you is the power supply unit. So in nearly all AutoTrails, you've got this one locker here towards the front of the van, behind the driver's seat here on the offside, which when you lift up, you will be greeted with a load of wires and electrical units. So this is a relatively simple one as far as AutoTrails go. Sometimes they've got huge, great big ones here and all sorts of stuff going on, but this is a relatively straightforward one. So this is your power supply unit. It's a Sargent EC155, and basically this is where everything electronic goes to get diverted and put around to where it needs to go to from there. So everything starts from here, essentially. So on the right hand side, we've got all of your mains trip switches. All right, so this is when you're hooked up on the mains, and if it does trip, it will probably trip from this main blue one here as your RCD. To the left, we have got, oh, and by the way, just before I carry on, it does tell you what each one of the MCBs actually does and powers. So if you do get one of them specifically dropping, then it means there's an issue with one of these specific appliances. Same goes for the 12-volt fuses. So this is all 12-volt related, or in other words, like leisure battery related. And they do also all have a little diagram telling you what size they should be and what they do. Okay. The only other thing on this power supply unit is the red switch at the top just here, which says charger. So this is your on and off switch for the battery charger when you're hooked up on the mains. So when you hook the van up on the mains, you should get this light will light up. And essentially what it means is it's just telling you that it's definitely working and your leisure battery is being charged up. So in other words, you can leave that on all the time, and it will just do its thing, basically. Just, it will turn on when you plug it in, and it will turn off when you unplug it. Okay. The only other thing that I'm going to point out to you in this locker is this little unit here that says solar on it. So as you can probably imagine, it means that you've got a solar panel on the roof, and it also tells me, because we've got 6 cables coming out from the bottom of the controller, it means that your engine battery and leisure batteries are both hooked up to this one solar controller. Okay, so in other words, engine and leisure are both being charged up by the solar. Now you don't have to do anything with this box. There's no buttons on it whatsoever. It will just do its own thing, and it will tell you roughly what the battery voltage is looking like on the screen there as well. Now obviously there are more accurate ways of checking the battery voltage. If you wanted to get a voltmeter and put it directly on the battery, you can do that, but to be honest, the scales that I'm going to show you up on here are pretty good anyway, so you shouldn't need to do that. So the control panel itself is again a very, very straightforward one. Okay, now it's this one just here above the habitation door, by the way. So we have got an on and off switch up here, I'm trying to find the easiest way to show you. On and off like that. So that will turn power on and off to the majority of the 12-volt appliances in the van. So when you get into the van, essentially turn the power on just there and then choose L, which is your leisure battery. If we pressed vehicle and switched over to vehicle battery, that now means that everything in the back of the van is being powered from the vehicle battery. So for obvious reasons, we don't really want to do that. You know, pretty quickly you're going to end up draining out your engine battery and then you won't be able to start the van up. So we don't really want to do that. So for the most part, you want to leave it there on L, which is leisure, and you'll then be able to go ahead and use whatever you want. We've got water pump just here on the bottom left-hand side. And freshwater level is this one just here. So when you press on this, it will show you a little gauge here, and we're showing about half a tank of fresh water. Okay, so now that I've turned the water pump on, I can now come over to the tap and just make sure that we've got pressure in the both hot and cold systems of the vehicle. The reason it's really important to get the pressure building up on both sides is because the only way to check that the boiler is actually full of water before you go trying to use it is to make sure that you've got water coming out through the hot side of the tap. And just without trying to sort of bore you with it too much, the reason that that works and the reason that you have to do that is basically because the boiler itself is first in line for the hot water side of the system. So when you try and draw the water through on the hot side, if the boiler isn't completely full to the top, you will not be able to draw the water through and it won't come through. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the water through on the cold side first. Coming through nice and clearly, not coughing, not spluttering, not covering me in water. So the cold side is good. There's no air and everything's up to pressure. Okay, if I now turn to the hot side and do the same thing. Same again, not coughing, not spluttering. It's got a tiny bit of air coming through there, but that was it. So the air coming through on the hot side of the tap there is basically just a tiny little bit of water that's not in the boiler yet. It's literally, you know, if the boiler isn't 100% full to the brim, you'll get a little bit of air coming through the tap just as it fills it up. Yeah, so it's really simple, but it's a really important thing to do. If you are going to use the boiler and you want to get the water hot, you need to make sure that you check that the boiler's full of water first, just by doing what I've done there. If you find that the boiler isn't full of water and you do just get air coming out of the tap, it means one of two things. It either means that your water isn't quite full enough yet. Yeah, so if you've not got enough water in the tank, which is why I checked on the control panel there, or it can mean that your boiler drain is open. So if you find that you open the tap up or turn the pump on and there's water just pumping out underneath the vehicle around the bed area, then I can pretty much guarantee you that your boiler drain is in the upright position. Okay, but as I say, long story short, make sure that you've got water coming through the tap on the hot side and the cold side, and then you can go ahead and use the van however you want to. Okay, so from there, what have we got that I can show you? So I will show you through the fridge first, because that is the first thing in line to show you. So you have got, in this particular van, a three-way fridge. As you can probably imagine, three-way fridge means that you can use it three different ways. So we have got mains electric, just here, gas, and 12-volt electric. They are your three options for pretty much any three-way motorhome or caravan fridge. Okay, they don't really vary from that whatsoever, unless you get a 12-volt only fridge, but this is a proper three-way fridge. So what you've got is these two just here, the mains electric and the gas, are the only two ways that will actually get the fridge cold from warm. Okay, so as I've come into the van today, the fridge obviously isn't cold because we haven't had it on. If I want to get the fridge cold, I either have to use gas or the mains electric. You've got these two options here. Okay, and that might sound really stupid, and you might be thinking, well, why is there three options? Reason for the third option, the 12-volt electric, is for keeping the fridge cold whilst you're driving. Okay, it is not powerful enough to get the fridge cold by itself, and it will not work unless the engine is physically running. So if I choose 12-volt now, and we watch what happens. Warning light straight away telling us that there's no 12-volt power there. Okay, so at the moment I don't have the mains electric plugged in, so I can't use the mains, and I don't have the engine running, so I can only use the gas. Okay, so again, long story short, if you want to get the fridge cold, you either use the gas or the mains electric before you leave, and then switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving. Now, a little bit more on that, just in case you were wondering, the reason why you have the 12 volt option here is because you have that split charger that I was mentioning about earlier on. So the split charger, basically, when you start the engine up, it takes a little bit of power from the engine, from the alternator, and sends it back to the leisure battery, so that the leisure battery charges when you're driving, and another cable runs to the fridge so that you can keep the fridge cold via the engine. So that's what that 12 volt option there is for. Now, the only other thing to point out on the fridge is to bear in mind that it will take a good 3 or 4 hours to get the fridge cold, even when you are using one of these two options here. So bear that in mind. If you're going to go away on holiday tomorrow morning, you either want to leave it on overnight on one of the two options, or go out quite early and turn the fridge on before you leave, a good few hours before. Okay, and then, as I said, just make sure that you remember to switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving. You've then got your temperature gauge on the right hand side, just 1 to 5 basically. And a little thing just here telling you about how to reset the gas lockout. So if you turn the gas on the fridge, or if you're trying to turn it on the gas, sorry, and you haven't got enough gas in the bottle, you will go through to what's called a gas lockout, and you just have to reset it by pressing this button here. So it's just telling you how to do that basically. Okay, so that is the fridge. I'm going to leave that on for a little while, just on the gas, just to double check it again. We have done the hab check on it, but just to triple check really. So we have then got your cooker. So this is what we would call a range cooker really in the motorhomes. So because you've got it's all one piece basically is why we call it that. So you've got the option on here of 3 gas burners or a mains electric ring at the back. So hook up only. All right, this will not do anything at all without the hookup cable plugged in. Okay, so we've got a ignition switch here for 3 gas burners. Okay, and your dial here for the ring is on the left hand side. I very rarely actually go through and explain much about these, to be honest, because it is so self-explanatory. All I would say is that you really need to make sure that you allow the top, if you're using any of these burners or the ring there, you really need to make sure that you allow it to cool down a bit before you put the glass lid back down. When you put the glass lid back down too quickly, you can sometimes end up having a shattering glass lid, and that's not much fun. So just bear that in mind, and leave the grill door open when you're using it, and that's about it. It's really simple. You shouldn't have any issues with that at all. Right above us is our 240 volt or your hookup powered microwave, obviously in there. Okay, so that's obviously a mains powered appliance. That's a factory fitted one because it's a Daewoo, and that is the ones that they fit from AutoTrail. So in the wardrobe just here, top right hand side, we've got our TV aerial booster, which has got a little switch on the top left hand side to turn it on and off as and when you need it. Just put this clip back on. And your actual TV aerial itself is just up there, which is a standard tilt and turn aerial. Now, when you have the booster on, you may or may not have to move that aerial, but if you do have to move it, you just loosen off the nut at the top and then just push it up and twist it around until you get a decent signal. So it's really easy. So below us, we have got our heater. Okay, so this is a Truma Ultra Heat, and this is the sort of like the top spec one that you can get. Okay, so if we want to use the heating on the gas, we can use this on the gas or the mains electric, same as the boiler is both. Okay, so if you want to use it on the gas, what we've got is our little gas valve on the right hand side and a little peephole just down here. Okay, so let's just say we want to light the gas up. When I twist the valve round to the left to about 1, you can hear we've got our ignition going straight away. So it's an automatic ignition. So now you may or may not be able to see it on the video. Probably not actually. But when I push this valve down now, when I push it down with the ignition going, if you watch what happens, the gas flame comes on almost straight away. Let me just see if I can zoom in on that so we can see it. No, it's not going to focus. No, not going to focus on that. Anyway, so all I'm doing now is holding this button down whilst the pilot flame warms up the chamber. Okay, so all I'm going to do from here is lift up on this and twist it around until the main flame kicks in. So it might even kick in as I lift it up. No, so I'm going to twist it around now to about 3. So you saw there, and probably heard as well, the main flame to the left of it kicking in and giving us our proper gas heating. So for a few minutes it might just be a little bit flickery like that, but after a little bit of time warming up, it will just go really, really nice and stable. So that is perfectly normal. Now if the flame starts to go out a little bit, it will either start clicking and light itself back up, or you might have to push the button back down again just to get the pilot flame to carry on warming it up a bit more. But that's it. Just leave it alone when you get to that point there. And there you go. Nice clean gas flame. The more you use it, the less orange that flame will be as well, by the way. It's not really that orange, but it will just get more and more blue the more you use it. So that's how you would use the gas heating on this unit. On the left hand side, we have got your fan option. Now you have got the option of automatic at the top or manual. I always opt for manual, just purely for the fact that the automatic one doesn't really work that well, in my opinion. So choose manual and then just choose your speed. And that just determines how quickly the air pumps around to these little beige vents around the vehicle. So it's as simple as that. Choose manual and then set your speed. Back to the middle for off. Simple as that. So alternatively, if you want to use the heating on the mains electric, if I lift up the bed here, we have got, as I mentioned on the outside, we've got 2 little buttons down here. Now, realistically, there's only one button here that you need to have turned off all the time unless you want it using, which is the one on the left, which I'll tell you more about in just a second. So the one on the right hand side here that says Ultra Heat on it is the one that we need to have switched on if we want to use the heating on the electric. The one on the left hand side is our boiler on the mains. So when you want to use the hot water on the mains electric, you turn this one on and off as and when you need it. So the reason that I said that you need to turn the boiler one on and off is because when you have that on, as soon as you plug the hookup cable in, that will start heating up the water. Okay, so you need to make sure that you just turn that on and off as and when you need it, because if you forget that it's on and you drain the boiler out or something like that, then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. The Ultra Heat, the heating one here, is different because all it really does is turn the power on to another switch that I'm going to show you up here now. So we can leave the Ultra Heat one on all the time, use the Ultra Store for the water as and when you need it. Okay, so now that we've got our Ultra Heat switch on, we can then come to this little area here. So this area here, if we look at the bottom dial here that says Ultra Heat, this is the one that we need to be looking at. So if we're hooked up on the mains and we want to get the van warm, we have got the option of 500, 1000 or 2000 watts. Okay, so they all equate to a certain amount of amps, which is the one that we really need to be focusing on. And you need to basically make sure that you know how many amps that you have when you get plugged in on the campsite or wherever you might be. So at home, as you probably know, the majority of sockets are a 13 amp. So essentially when you plug into a household socket, if you are wired into a 13 amp system, then you've got 13 amps to use inside the vehicle before it will trip out your house, essentially. Okay, the reason that I'm saying that now is because the 2000 watt option on the Ultra Heat will draw about 8.5 amps, okay, on its own. I personally don't recommend ever even using that 2000 option, because it is just it's an unbelievable amount of power. I would recommend just using 500 or 1000 on that, which is either 2 or 4 amps, so that you have a lot more to play with to wherever you're plugged into. But in other words, you just basically choose a amount of watts just there when you hook up cable plugged in, and the heater itself down here will start warming up. So you still use the fan in the same way. You heat it up with this one up here if you want to use it on the mains, heat it up with the gas if you want to use gas, still use the fan in the same way. Okay, and the last thing is the boiler. So I've already told you, underneath the seat just here, underneath the bed, sorry, is your Ultra Store switch. So if you are hooked up on the mains and you want to get the water hot on the mains, turn that switch on under the bed there. And if you don't have the mains plugged in, but you want to use it on the gas, you just use this little button just here, which says boiler, go up for 50 degrees. So if we wait for it to light up, just heard it light straight up, straight away. If it didn't light up, you would get a little red light come up on the screen just there next to the little O, and then just down for 70. So there are your two options for the hot water on the gas. Okay, back to the middle, turns the boiler off, and that is it. So that is all the appliances. Hopefully they all made sense. In the bathroom, we have again got just hot and cold tap. So a little bit of air coming through the boiler just then, but nothing to worry about. Pump should turn itself off once you turn the tap off. There you go, perfect. Same again for the shower, but I won't show you that because I'll get soaking wet. So really easy. The only part that I really actually explain in the bathrooms is normally the toilet, because you might not have used one of these Thetford loos before. So this is a freshwater flush system, by the way, so you haven't got any separate flush fluids to worry about. Quite literally just press the blue button here to get the flush pumping around, which is just fresh water. So basically you will need to have a little bit of water in the fresh tank if you want to use the toilet. So even if you're on the road, making sure that you've got a little bit of water in the fresh tank is quite important in this particular van. You hear some people say, oh, you absolutely have to drain all the water out from the boiler, all the water out from the van before you start driving. Realistically, it's not actually true, because I understand if you've got the tank absolutely full to the brim, then maybe you might notice a little bit, but it's one of those things. If you say that, I don't know exactly, but if you said you had a 100-litre water tank, if you filled it right to the top, you'd be around 100 kilos. So if you thought about that, it's not the end of the world. These things are made for towing a lot heavier stuff. So it is okay to drive around with some water in the tank. It's not a problem at all. Yeah, so anyway, long story short, press the blue button just here to get the flush fluid pumping around. This button here will turn the fan off, okay? You've got a little tiny fan underneath the cassette in this particular one, to basically stop anything. It helps things breaking down, basically. So you can turn it on and off with this little button just here, if that noise gets annoying. And then you've got a handle on the front just here. When you push it to the right, it drains everything into the cassette. And then just make sure that you pull the handle back again. And that's it. That really is all there is to it. It's very, very simple. Just double checking that I've not missed anything out. Don't think so. Okay, so hopefully that has been informative and helpful. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.